Good afternoon, or is it good evening? I'm not too sure because it's 6 o'clock, so it's that time, isn't it, in between? Uh, Welcome back to Through Black and White Eyes. We've got a great show lined up. Just waiting for Keith to turn up. Fingers crossed. We said 6 p.m. Come on, Keith, you can do it. If Keith doesn't turn up, we'll just go through the Nottingham Forest game tonight because I will be doing a live watch along for it. But yeah, we've got lots to go through. If Keith makes it, probably having a few problems getting logged in or something. He did reply saying, looking forward to joining you. So I'm sure he will be here. We'll just wait. He's actually joined our Facebook group. Absolutely buzzing. Keith Hackett has joined our Facebook group. So you can ask him questions yourself whenever you want. But while we're waiting, we'll do the usual stuff. There's the link if you would like to become a member. Memberships really help to keep the channel running. Basically free of charge because we do pay for stuff to make it as best as we can. And then the rest of the money we donate to charity as we do our best. Even all, another frustrating day in Newcastle will get your questions ready for Keith Hackett, says Leslie. Please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. It's free. Join from 99p. Enter into monthly prize draws to donate. Super chat, bottom right-hand corner. Brilliant. Please adhere to standard community guidelines. Keep comments respectful and enjoy the show. Hey, Beza, how's chat? Oh, and chat, how's life? Really good, mate. Oh, he needs the link sent to his email address. Dun, 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 dun. So I will do that now. So he's definitely coming. Invite guest, copy. So yeah, finished night shift, going back onto night shift tomorrow night. There we go. So he'll be here very, very soon. Hi, Caitlin, Nick, hope you're well. Yeah, who is it? Who is it? Caitlin tonight? Is it Nick tonight? Or is it both? I don't know. But yeah, really looking forward to the game later on. Come on. And I mean, the Carabao Cup's not the be-all to end-all, but we would love to go deep in that competition and potentially win it. I'm excited. Oasis tickets go on sale on Friday. Always wanted to see them live. Never been able to afford to do it. Never had the guts to go to a concert like that. But really want to do it. But don't forget, subscribe. Consider becoming a member. Let's get this out of the way with. I mean, amazing sponsors that we have. They're absolutely fantastic. Diacro, 20% off for everyone who watches the channel. Link is in the description. And don't forget about football prizes. Absolutely amazing prizes to do. This one's already finished. I'm waiting for the next prize that they're going to be doing. And this is definitely confirmed for the 16th of January. I think it's going to be £10 a ticket, and we're going to have a very special guest lined up for that as well. Right, let's bring the man of the hour in. Good afternoon, Keith. How are we doing?
I'm fine. Got over a technical itch at this end, but succeeded. Apologies for being late. I'm normally early.
Hey, you're here. That's the main thing, and we obviously really appreciate it. It's the second time you've been on our show, which is incredible. And it's nice to be able to get someone who was in the professional game, still has a good ear to the ground into it, to be able to discuss these rule changes and everything that's been going on. But the first thing I want to point out is, I don't know if you saw the thumbnail, but you invented the Alan Shearer celebration.
Did I?
It looks like it to me. The one arm's up in the air and you're running. I mean, I know it's for a goal kick or something, but it certainly looks like you invented the celebration to me.
Yeah. To be honest with you, one of the things that I loved to do was play an advantage. My view was that the fans wanted to see the players and not the referee. So at every available opportunity, I would apply an advantage. And that kept the game flowing, and that enhanced the enjoyment for spectators.
I agree with that. And there's been a few referees who've celebrated a goal after playing a great advantage. And I mean, I'm all for it because they've done their job well. You know, they played the advantage. Some fans think it's bias and they're, you know, giving the other team an advantage. I mean, I'm all for it. Are you all for seeing a referee be happy with what his decision and what he's done?
Well, I think as a referee, one of the things that I find with the modern referee is that they don't look as though appear to be enjoying what they're doing. And, you know, if you're enjoying something, you're more relaxed, you're part of the game. I just think that too many referees want to be the center of the focus. They want to find problems and invent them rather than actually just apply the laws of the game. And when in doubt, play advantage. It gets you out of a lot of problems.
It does. And again, with VAR and technology these days, you can bring it back if there's been an error, can't you? I mean, that's what it's there for.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting point, because obviously when I refereed, if you applied an advantage, that was the end of the matter. You couldn't go back.
Yeah.
Then the law changed and said you got a few seconds to enable you to come back. And in fairness, I think good referees, when they do that and apply an advantage, it doesn't materialise, then they come back. And I think, well, that's a good piece of refereeing. And I think fans do generally.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some of them think, oh, he's been longer than 5 seconds. I think it's about 5 seconds, isn't it? They try to look ahead.
Yeah. You know, to be honest with you, good referees can stretch the amount of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Add to the risk.
It's the ones that blow straight away, and the guy's through on goal. You're like, what's he done?
Yeah.
They're a nightmare.
There's nothing worse, you know. And yeah, whilst you can't publicly celebrate as a referee, inwardly, if an advantage does materialise and it results in a goal, I can tell you it doesn't half lift your confidence. And you're not getting arrogant. You're just saying, I'm in tune with the game.
Yeah, just a little fist pump, you know, like I've done a good job there. I've made a great decision. I think referees should show a little bit more emotion, to be fair, and it might actually help. Let's talk about some rule changes. The first one, I think, is quite an interesting one. Premier League referees are now required to reveal the clubs they support and attempt to be more transparent towards supporters. Now, I would have thought this would be compliant already. You know, if you're a Man United fan, you can't exactly referee a Man United game. So, what do you think of that finally coming in, and why wasn't it introduced earlier?
Well, first of all, even when I was the boss of the PGMOL a few years ago, referees at the beginning of every season had to declare that the club that they had allegiances to, either supporter or trained in that club, you know, and that was part of the process. Then they decided, you know, and it would be Keith Hackett brackets Sheffield close brackets on the programme. People might remember that. And then they decided to start to withdraw that information. So it was just, you know, Anthony Taylor, no mention of Manchester. And in my day, for example, as a Yorkshireman based in Sheffield, I wouldn't be allowed to referee Sheffield Wednesday or United. I only refereed Rotherham United, which is on the doorstep, on one occasion in a cup match against Chesterfield, a team that's about 20 miles away. So that was the case. And I only refereed Leeds United once or twice in my career because I was a Yorkshireman. And whilst they were happy for me to go to Middlesbrough, Leeds was generally off the scene. So what we have seen is, and I'm amazed by it, to be honest. I mean, we go back to my period when I was in charge. The FA appoint referees to the FA Cup. It's not the duty or responsibility for the PGMOL. And some of your listeners might remember that Mike Dean was appointed before the semi-finals had been played to referee the cup final, and suddenly Liverpool got through, and there was a bit of an outcry, and the outcome of that was to take, Mike Dean off the final. Yes, he got one a couple of years later, but you know, if you're built up and you're awarded this big honours match, and then it's taken away from you, you can rightly feel a bit disgruntled. But that was down to the poor management of the referees from the FA at the time, and it did cause me a few problems, in fairness. But you know what we see now is we see Anthony Taylor, who lives in Greater Manchester. I think he worked at Strange Ways before he became a professional referee. He was a prison officer. And from him joining the Premier League, he has always declared that he is an Altrincham fan. Right. And you take someone like Mike Dean, I'm going back. Mike Dean was a Tranmere fan, a big Tranmere fan, openly talk about his joy at them winning, you know, and I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan. So those were always declared. But I think it comes into an area that creates some degree of discussion when Anthony Taylor, like this coming weekend, will referee Manchester United versus Liverpool. Now, he lives in Greater Manchester. He supports Altrincham, and I'm not questioning his integrity, but you always have a fear factor that if something does go wrong, major, it bounces on him and his integrity is questioned. And I think as an organization, as a business, you have to reduce the exposure of that particular scenario. But yes, they have published that document. It does show where the teams that they support. I mean, we've known for a long time, when Michael Oliver joined the PGMOL, we know that he was a strong Newcastle United supporter. He doesn't hide that fact. It doesn't create a problem. Where I think you've got to be careful when you're making the appointments is, let's say, heaven forbid, that Newcastle United are in the relegation zone, and Middlesbrough are in the relegation zone, and maybe Sunderland. I know this is like I'm trying to. It's unlikely to happen. It's unlikely to happen. But Michael would be kept away from Middlesbrough or Sunderland and any team in that block that's in the relegation area that they may feel exposes him to any influences. But I think that with the checks and balances that are in place now with professional referees, that no one's got a fear factor. Taylor will go out and referee the match as a strong neutral, and it'll not cause a problem, hopefully.
Well, you would hope so. I mean, you could put another positive spin on it if Newcastle are going for Champions League, and then you've got Man United right up our backside, and then he then gets the Man United game to officiate. He might throw a few things so we get into the Champions League instead.
Well, you know, it just doesn't go through the thinking of I mean, when I was out on the field, it was black and white against red.
Yes.
You know, and the interesting bit is, if it was a league game, I'd come off and somebody would say, "What's the score?" And I'd say, "I haven't got a clue. I'm concentrating on the game." And he'd go, "You can't not understand the score." And I go, "Listen, it's an event. The goal is scored. I'm now moving on." And that to some degree was to remain neutral. But the important thing is that when a goal is scored, that frustrates some players. It makes others over enthusiastic. As a referee, you've then got to manage that. You've got to make certain it doesn't get out of control. You know, we all argue, and many fans say to me, why do we prevent players celebrating a goal and then getting a yellow card? And we saw at the weekend when a goal was being celebrated, and not over celebrated, but celebrated, the crowd surged forward. Yes. And the electronic scoreboard came down. So that whole scenario, that law at that particular time was to create safety and a safe atmosphere within the ground, and not create any crushing incidents or events.
Yeah, I mean, that was great from Suchek and Bowen, the way they rescued the kid from under that.
I mean,
awareness.
Well, I you know, these are the things that why we love football, and we're passionate about our own team, but in fairness, these are the areas where we think, well done, and an instant response, and saved a kid from possible serious injury. Well done to them.
Yeah, definitely. Some other rules, because there's quite a few. Semi-automated offsides will be introduced, but won't start until after the international break in September, October, or even November. Now, I am all for this new system to come into play.
Listen, it's been in operation now for a couple of years.
Yeah.
The simple thing is this: it has 12 of its own cameras. It doesn't rely on broadcast cameras.
Mhm.
Broadcast cameras operate at a speed of probably 100 frames per second. If you take goal line technology, which I introduced, and I work closely with Orkai, there's 7 cameras around each goal, and they're operating at 500 frames per second.
Wow.
Broadcast cameras are not quick enough. Now we go to the semi-automated system. We've got 12 cameras installed in the stadium.
Yep.
They're using AI. So there's 29 important points on every player.
Mm-hmm.
And that's reporting back to the software system 500 times a second.
Wow.
Now, the additional benefit is there's a chip in the Adidas ball, and it's being developed that way. Now, we come to, and the importance of that, of course, is that it'll not tell you whether that player is interfering with an opponent or gaining an advantage or interfering with play. All it will do is it will confirm very accurately that a player in an offside position is active, and therefrom that the judgment can be made.
Right.
The semi-automated system in the Euros and in the World Cup reduced the amount of wait time by 30 seconds, which doesn't sound a lot, but it is.
Oh, I agree.
So we now get to the Premier League, who've, for some unknown reason, one of the wealthiest leagues in the world, delay the decision to bring it in.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
And we're now going to get it in the autumn. And already we can say there's in 2 weeks, there's games that have gone where it ought to have been in operation.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Okay, but it applies to all clubs. Now, for me, it's a no-brainer. And it will improve the decision-making process on offside. The only question I've got 2 questions. My contacts in China say they're not using Sony cameras, but they're experimenting with Apple iPhone cameras. That's an aside. And I'm thinking that could be like you've bought a McLaren body, but you ain't got a McLaren engine. That's
you put
my
Skoda engine in or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not having a go at Skoda.
No, definitely not.
And the other thing is, now we come to the ball. Was the technology, nobody's given me the answer yet, I've asked the question, was the technology with the chip in the ball and the sensory around it, because it can actually confirm that the ball has been touched or played.
Yeah.
That was developed around the Adidas ball. The Premier League play with a Nike ball.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think likely to change to Puma at some time next season, so people tell me. So what I want to know is when it comes in and it is introduced, will it have all the features that we see in the system used in the Euros? But
maybe that's why there's a hold-up. Maybe that's why there's a hold-up, because they don't have the Adidas ball. Maybe it's trying to get Puma and Nike to develop the ball around the chip.
It could be that. I think there's also obviously, if you're a test pilot, you're in a flight simulator, you get nowhere near a plane until you're absolutely 100%. And for me, when we introduced technology, goal line technology was simple because all it did was send a signal to the watch, goal. Now, we've had the communication kit since I was in charge. They've now agreed this year that signal can go to the ear of the referee and just say goal. But that's all it does. When we get to VAR, I'm looking around and I'm fairly active in the game. I don't see many people who are actually applauding the use of VAR and how we operate it. So technology's it will benefit. Now we've got to talk about the people.
Yeah,
and
the people in charge of it, isn't it? It's like
well, I mean, look, I think that my personal view was that in the Euros, the VAR operated really well because I think there was a high bar. And I think that the referees in that system, including 2 Premier League referees operating as VAR, operated the Euro way and not the Premier League way. So we had fewer problems, in my opinion, because I think that's all I know that's all they did. If you were appointed an official to the Euros, your only role was VAR. Something that I think needs to happen in the Premier League. You cannot have, look, our best referee by a mile is Michael Oliver. He's by far our best referee. And you look at him and he referees a big match one day and then he's VAR the next. I don't think that is conducive to good officiating. So, yeah, in a nutshell, the semi-automated system needs to come in, and we want what Europe had. Yeah. Nothing different.
It's amazing how a Geordie's the best referee. Yeah.
Well, look, you don't see him. The one thing I think 50 years of refereeing and actively involved in refereeing for longer than that, it enables me to make a judgment with my eyes as to who is our best referee. And whilst fans are allowed to dictate and disagree, I think that Michael reads the game really well. He's a very fit referee. He doesn't go charging around the field of play, but interestingly, there's a big decision. And where is he? He's almost on top of the ball because he reads the game well. In terms of the management of players, I think sometimes I think to myself, he's coming across in a slightly arrogant way. He's not arrogant. It's confident, I mean, look, we had Jeff Winter and Jeff Winter, managers occasionally said, oh, he's arrogant. He was never arrogant. He loved the game. He understood the game, and he was an outstanding referee and a good communicator. But he was confident. He was confident in himself. Sometimes to other people, that might have been seen as arrogant. But I'm telling you, I know him well, and I know Michael well. They're outstanding referees. And the North East generally, and I know having worked in Newcastle, I've got to be careful about bringing Sunderland into the North East or whatever. but the reality is, for some unknown reason, and I don't know why, the North East, and I guess it's grassroots football and semi-pro football, it produces and has produced over many years some outstanding referees. I ran the line to Pat Partridge, Peter Willis, both of them gone sadly. For me, in my era, and he was a competitor of mine, George Courtney was one of the best, fit referee. You as Newcastle fans have not enjoyed those top-class referees. You get all the crap from our area.
This is true. Well, we're just unlucky, aren't we? Now, this is another one I like. Only the captain can speak to the referee. Any other player will be automatically carded if they confront the officials. Now, you take that with a pinch of salt, don't you, these days? Because you still see other players going to the referee, don't you?
Well, this I have to say, worked extremely well in the Euros.
It did, yeah.
And we didn't have the surrounding of the referee. Guess what? The PGMOL and the Premier League have decided that they're not going to apply this.
Oh, right. So they've made it a rule, but they're not going to apply it.
It's not even a rule. They're not going to apply it.
Oh, right. Wow.
And this, I think, is the power of the clubs over the PGMOL.
See, I think it's a great idea that the captain
listen
to the referee.
It doesn't prevent the referee from talking to other players. And sometimes
no, it doesn't.
we sometimes have this belief that every time we talk to a player, a referee, it's threatening or it's in conflict.
Yeah.
And often it's encouragement. You know, referees have to be sympathetic to the game, and they have to be good communicators. And, you know, I can remember in my era, you know, the likes of Malcolm MacDonald and Shearer and all these people, they might run alongside me and say, that was a crap decision, that, Keith. You got that one a million miles wrong. And I might say, Malcolm, you've just missed an open goal. So what, you having a go at me? What? You're paid to put it in the back of the net. He goes, yeah, and you're paid to get decisions right. But that was the banter during the course of a match.
Yeah, as long as it's taken as banter as well.
Well, I think. Look, isn't this?
It would be, back in your day, it would be, but maybe now with all the different.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's one side of the game that I think has changed, and you know, we had. I think part of that change was when Mark Clattenburg wrongly was accused of making racist remarks against, I think, a Chelsea player years ago. And of course, he eventually, rightly, got an apology. But it sort of then, sometimes with the increased number of overseas players that play in our game, you know, their body language and their reaction can be different. You know, if you take someone with a Latin temperament, Italy, Romania, France, they invariably talk with their hands, and it can be seen to be, it illuminates the debate and what looks to be dissent, but it's their natural style of how they talk. And in other areas, you've got players who, they all understand English, but I think generally, but some don't, and some not as good, and their nationality has a different level of personality, and so all that comes into the mix. But it's one that the referee has to deal with, and he should be good at.
I like that. Referees will no longer automatically give a yellow card for non-deliberate handballs. That a positive change?
Well, I think there's something bigger than that, and that is, first of all, I was hoping that the lawmakers would clarify handball, because I think if you put 100 referees in a room, you'd probably finish up 60-40.
Yeah, I think
they'd all be arguing. I think the law has been overcomplicated, and I do think that there are times when the ball strikes the hand, and the player has not made his body shape larger, he's not made movement of hand to ball, but he still gets penalised.
Yeah.
And I think that the Premier League referees this year have got to be a lot better at making a consistent judgment of what is handball, you know,
I agree with that.
and what is the body shape. Because, you know, I brought in a guy on body mechanics many years ago, and he explained the movement of a player. You know, it's because we first of all, we're looking at, say, the use of the elbow as a weapon.
Yeah.
So what was very clear was that if a player clenches his fist, he's using it as a weapon.
Yeah, force.
Right? So I think that what we've got to do is we've got to understand the movement of a player. One when he's jumping for the ball, or one when he's defending.
Yeah.
And probably err on the side of the player and not saying the ball's struck, it's got to be a penalty kick. But
there's a lot of defenders now defending with their arms behind the back like that now, aren't they? Because they're scared.
Well, they've been coached to do that because the managers are like that. They've seen penalties, kicks awarded for themselves or other teams, and they're going, we've got to avoid that.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be part of the game. This is about education. This is about saying what is a handball and what is not a handball. Now, look, we had that great debate this weekend with that goal at Bournemouth that
We're going to come to that.
I know. Well, I'll jump in before you start. Right. For me, right, I'm glad you've got that. For me, that is right. We'll go away from the decision. Let me try and clarify here.
Yeah.
We're not looking at the shirt sleeve in any format for this decision.
Thank God you've said that, because I've ever heard on Twitter and on all these social medias, and people are like, it's always been the shirt sleeve. I'm like, well, what if someone wears a 3/4 shirt sleeve?
Yeah. Well, they'd wear them full length, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
The reality is, for that reason, the IFA were very clear that it's the line with the underside of the armpit across. Above it is the shoulder, below is the hand arm. And that clarifies. So now we come to this crucial decision at the weekend. So I'm going to upset you, because I'm going to take the side that this was a good goal. I want to see justification 100% as to why a goal is ruled out. Right. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether it's Newcastle United, Bournemouth, or a team from Timbuktu. If a goal is scored, the only time I want it ruled out, if it is 100% handball. Yeah. Now, what we've got here is we've got a dilemma, because the Premier League came out and said this is a factual decision, and that's why the referee didn't get involved. Wrong.
Well, the referee can't see it. You can see the referee's position in the picture. He can't see that.
No, he's adrift from play. He can't make the decision. So we heard Howard Webb talking about the referee's call, which gave me an indication that we would have a stronger approach to these types of offences by way of the referee making the decision, not somebody sat in a soft armchair at Stockley Park. The very least I would have expected from this decision, whatever way it goes, is for the referee to visit the screen. Simple. And had he gone to the screen, and either way, not given it or given it, it's his call, it's subjective, and his call counts. Because he didn't go to the screen, and VAR made that call saying it's a factual decision. Well, whichever team you're at, if this was a team and Newcastle United had scored, then you would expect the goal to stand, in my opinion. And I think, you know, when I look at someone as passionate in the game as Alan Shearer, and Alan Shearer comes out and says, look, this goal should have stood, there's no reason for it to be disallowed, then that's where I think it shows that an error has been made, either in the decision or the selling of that decision. Yeah. In the same way, at the Chelsea game, and we're on VAR here, in the Chelsea game, rightly, the VAR came in to advise Sam Allison, the referee, have a look at this because it's a penalty kick. He had a look, awarded a penalty kick. There was an identical situation in the opposite penalty area, and they didn't. The referee's miles from play. No penalty kick was awarded. That's when you start to argue as to why didn't the VAR comes in on one and doesn't come in the other. And these are mistakes at the elite level that should not be made. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. The one thing about VAR for me, though, they're trying to speed it up by, take cricket, for example. Decision goes upstairs. They use the technology. It's plain as day. It's an LBW decision. It's pitched in line. It's hit the batsman in line. The bat's not in there. Hit the bat. LBW, you've got to reverse your decision. So you don't ask the on-field umpire to go and look at a screen. They just use the technology and say, right, the decision's this, please reverse it. Is that what football are trying to do, do you think, maybe? Is trying to speed things up?
I think the great thing about cricket and the great thing about rugby is you hear that conversation and you see that
Yes.
action, and football doesn't. And you fans in the stadium are treated like mushrooms.
Yes.
You're out of it. You're not involved in what's going off. All you see is goal disallowed or goal allowed, and you think, "Oh, I'll look at that on the telly, or I'll actually investigate it on my phone in the stadium." This is wrong, and I can't understand why the PGMOL and the lawmakers, the IFAB, don't allow us to go through the rugby or cricket process and make it part of the entertainment. Full stop.
Mic them up. That's what they do in rugby. It's what they do in cricket.
They're
you
already
hear it over the
mic'd up.
antennas.
They're already mic'd up. So
exactly.
And they're good communicators. Like every referee on the Premier League is a good communicator, and so as a consequence, I don't know what the fear is. It's wrong, and I think until they have a panel of VAR specialists, whoever they are, trained and accountable, and they have good referees who know how to operate VAR in terms of communication, and we communicate that fully to the fans, then we'll get a better buy-in. But at the moment, no chance.
I have been saying that for years, Keith. Thank you. I think a lot of us have all said it. Get maybe an ex-professional in with a referee in. If they want to do it, make them VAR specialists. That's all they do. It's their job every match day. They go and sit in the room and do it. It would make things, and also being in the ground as well, I think sometimes is where they need to be, rather than, like you said, in Dorsey Park.
You know, when an error is made, and referees make errors, the reality is you have to use those errors as positives towards education and coaching advice, so that you show it to the individual, you discuss it in detail, you ask how can it be prevented in the future, and then as the group of referees, and I used to do this, as a group of referees, you have sometimes a heated debate.
Yeah.
You know? But at the end of the day, you come out of that room and say, given this similar situation, this is what the outcome is. And you're right to say that the built-in trust between the referee and the umpire and the TMO is is built into the process. We bought into it. Yeah. What we see is in a 10-match program at the weekend, we see similar incidents with different outcomes.
Yes.
And we think, why didn't that VAR intervene on that? And he intervened on this one.
Yeah.
You know?
Consistency.
It's the consistency that is lacking, but it's also the accuracy. The accuracy is not good. And I'm not buying into like, oh, we're now 99% accurate in the decision making.
I would like to see their decisions and how they come to that conclusion, to be fair. Because in cricket, I mean, they went from, I mean, the umpires were always very excellent in the international level. They were like 94% right all the time.
Yeah.
When they introduced, which I actually messaged Bumble, I said, look, you need to look at the no ball situation. Stop having the umpires looking down and then looking up. Let the video guy do it. And then they made that change. I was like, that was me. Well, I think when they did that, it went to 98%. I think it went up from 94 to 98% accuracy, which is what you want, isn't it?
Well, I can remember Mike Riley saying that his referees, when he was in charge of PGMOL, were 98 to 99% accurate. But I tell you that included in that was every decision. So
throw-ins and goal kicks,
throw-ins, goal kicks, corners, and all it goes.
I love it. That's a good way of fudging the figures, isn't it?
Fudge, sponge, whatever. And he was an accountant, so he probably had the skill set to be able to do that.
Yeah, he knows how to build a spreadsheet. I love it. VAR officials will not get involved in subjective decisions. Only clear and obvious errors will be looked at. I mean, that's what VAR was meant to be brought in for in the first place, was clear and obvious errors, not these, tiny hairline offside decisions. Try and play an advantage. We want to see more goals scored. I still don't see this being implemented personally this season. It still seems to be subjective all the time, doesn't it?
We've had 2 weeks. I've seen nothing that's changed in those 2 weeks. Confusion Look, it sounds as though I'm being harsh. I'm frustrated because the use of technology, and I brought in the communication kits and goal line technology, there were positives towards improving officiating. We're in our 6th year with VAR, and we're still trying to determine with our referees, because they're making the statements, you've just read it out. It says to you and I that have got a reasonable brain, they're still not clear on what is clear and obvious.
Yeah.
They're not.
That's another rabbit hole, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it says to me, you know, if somebody thumps you on the nose, you get pain. That's a clear and obvious error. It needs to be, and this is why I think if you had, you know, 10 VAR specialists trained, their decisions analysed, improvement in communication, trust between the referee and, because look, referee's competitive. We've only got 2 elite UEFA referees. We've had 2 referees this year demoted in classification in Europe. Now, it's competitive. And you know, you've got this scenario. If I've said to you that Michael Oliver is #1 referee, and his VAR next week is a referee that's just come on the list. Now, that don't mean to say he's just started refereeing. He's just come into the panel, and he's VAR, and there's a decision. Will he actually say to our #1 referee, you need to look at the monitor?
That's a good point.
You know, and therefore I think this whole relationship. So for me, that VAR should work with that referee week in, week out. He's part of the
build
team.
the rapport and build the
build the trust. Walk out on the pitch, you know. And I'll tell you, I've been privy, not as just as an active referee, but as the boss of the referees. I've gone into a dressing room when an error has been made, and I'm telling you, right, sometimes you're not parting the referee and the thing, but the disappointment on their faces is enormous. Referees don't think about the good decisions they've made, that advantage and all that goes with it. It's always, how could I avoid this error? Admitting to the error is the first thing.
Admitting to it first is obviously the big key, isn't it? There's some strange little rules being brought in. I don't know why they've done this personally, but team news will be released 75 minutes before kickoff, so 15 minutes earlier. Is there any reason why that would be brought in?
You actually get gamesmanship, but what you've got to understand is that the game is broadcast to 211 territories, and I think something like 40 plus television stations. Now, unlike what we see, Sky, TNT, where there's a lead up to the game, a panel and a discussion and a debate, often in Europe and in Asia, it's a 1 minute and banner of the Premier League coming on and straight into the game. So there are little things, you know, when you're a Premier League referee, you're not just refereeing a football match, you're managing an event. And let's take an example. The reason why we have a guy from Sky or TNT stood on the touchline to indicate to the referee kick off now, it's about the ads, but it's ensuring that all the TV stations and Post Office Tower where it beams to and IMG are all ready. You can't kick off 1 minute early, have a goal scored, right? And you see players hanging around. They go, why don't we kick off? And I'm going, television, mate. You don't want a game kicking off a minute early, a goal being scored, and then all of a sudden in Asia, where they're spending millions of pounds on spread betting, you suddenly don't want them coming on and saying it's 1-0. Those are the sort of things that referees have to take care of.
Yeah, I mean, that is a difficult one, isn't it? Because, I mean, there's a lot of times with instant replays as well. You've actually missed part of the game. It's frustrating. But, again, it's catering for the armchair fan rather than the fans in the stadium, isn't it? Which is a shame because
Yeah, I mean,
I always think the guys in the stadium are the ones who deserve to see the action in a real time more than the people who watch it at home, because I've spent their money.
correct. I mean, I just think that sometimes I have this feeling that they forget about the true fan and the passion. You know, I spoke earlier today because we were talking about football, obviously, and I just said to the guy, "Look, football is a disease. There's no cure." We started off as kids. I wasn't the referee. I was a fan of Sheffield Wednesday. My dad took me to the match. It was a 3-mile walk, stop at the pub on the way. I'd be slid down the heads of the supporters on the cop at Hillsborough. We watched the game, and the guy said to me today, "What was the most memorable match?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what it was. It was refereeing at Hillsborough in a semi-final, because my dad had passed away, sadly. The house where I lived, a terraced house, had been razed to the ground. I drove my spanking new car to an open field, literally, and got out the car in a blazer and everything, as the usual thing, and a bag, and walked the 3 miles to the stadium."
Nice.
And when the FA guy came in and said, "Right, match fee and what's your expenses?" in a Yorkshire style, I said, "No." He goes, "What do you mean, no? I don't want anything. Why? I'm a fan. I've refereed at the stadium where I used to stand there, and I never thought that I'd be on the pitch." And I think that's the passion. I mean, I think I've talked in the past about one Sunday morning, I was going to referee Newcastle versus Sunderland.
Yeah, I remember the story. Yeah,
you know, and the passion of that 70-plus bloke in tears because I'd walked him onto the pitch. Players and referees can take things for granted, the passion in the game. And sometimes when, I've gone out of a stadium and somebody's had a bit of a go, I've stopped and chatted. Because I think, explanation sometimes helps. Don't always get agreement. They like me, they go to Hillsborough. What's the referee looking at? But that's the passion, isn't it, within the game that we have. And we do see things from our perspective.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. No mid-season Christmas break for players. I mean, that's burnout, isn't it? Or is that just because there's no World Cup and no Euros in the middle of it now? So they're just going back to their normal routine of playing on Boxing Day and then on New Year's Day and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it does generate a lot of revenue.
It does, yeah. There it is again.
and I think it's that revenue bit that comes in. I think there's the history as well. I mean, I can remember, refereeing on a Saturday, Christmas Eve, and Boxing Day. And,
that's a lot, isn't it?
I mean, I remember New Year's Day as well. I can remember I was
after a few sherries.
Well, on one occasion, I had this big match at Hartlepool, and I was driving up the A19. I'd been called in the night before, and they said, "Look, you better come early. New Year's Eve, you better come early because snowed forecast. We need a morning inspection." And I can remember getting stopped on the A19, and copper came up to me and said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Hartlepool." And he said, "Why does anybody want to go to Hartlepool on New Year's Eve?"
It's a valid question.
I'm going to referee a football match tomorrow, hopefully. And I got there, and the disappointment, I had to call it off the following morning. But the scenario was that there were fans there, even though it was like 6 inches deep in snow, wanting a game of football. And
they just wanted a drink. That's what they wanted.
Yeah, that's what we want. We don't want snow at Christmas.
No, definitely not. Not for football. Stoppage time will be shorter. Now, that really confuses me because stoppage time is adding on to any injuries or any events that have happened in the game that need to be added on after the 45 and after the 90. So to say you're going to make it shorter says to me that you're not applying the rules.
Well, you're not. I mean, look, the only time we'll resolve this issue is when we bring in an independent timekeeper. Boxing has it, basketball has it, football should have it. And with that, I know it's changing tradition. We should have a stop clock, you know, and I refereed in the North American Soccer League in the 80s as a guest referee. And they had that. They had the independent timekeeper. They had the stop clock. And part of the entertainment was the crowd counting 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and that scenario. But I think the management of time with players, because they could see it, was better as well. I think players just wanted to get on with the game. But the scenario, the difficulty in the modern game is a referee determining what is time wasting and what is time consuming.
Yes.
So if you're Newcastle and you're at the top of the league or near the top, and you're suddenly a team's coming from down below in the bottom six, say, the tactics are
slow it down.
We're looking for a draw. And they come with that mental attitude, let's go for a draw. And then you see the pitch from throw-ins, from corner kicks, the changes of who's going to take the kick, who's going to, you know, injuries come thick and fast. And it's all about slowing the game down and reducing the amount of playing time. I think you fans are getting duped. You know, you're getting on average less than 55 minutes of actual playing time in a game. So I think whoever's made that statement is incorrect in law, clearly. And they need to take a greater attitude towards ensuring that fans get value for money.
Ball in play, that's all we want to see.
That can be done easily by convincing the owners, by convincing the managers, and applying it to every club, and then starting the method of acquiring that. For me, independent timekeeper and stop clock. Let fans see what's going off, let players see what's going off, and whether they're going to go down, because it could be 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or if 3 o'clock we finish.
I love this one. So apparently there's a new Premier League Match Centre social media account, the PL Match Centre, that will communicate the facts regarding VAR decisions. Have you had a look at it?
No.
No? Do you think it's a good idea?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. If a Premier League spokesperson comes out and says, whatever channel that the handball, the disallowed Bournemouth goal, and I'm talking to Newcastle fans here, the disallowed Newcastle goal was factual, then I disagree 100%, because that was a subjective call which the referee should have made, not the VAR. I've said it again, and therefore their statement is already wrong when they made it in law.
That's a valid point.
Don't try and con supporters in this game. There's too many channels of information about the laws of the game and how they should be applied. And you can check. You can go on to www.theifab.com and you can download the laws of the game for free. You know.
Just got to have about a few weeks to read it all, don't you? And then try and be subjective.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but then I don't know whether it improves. I mean, when I go and watch a football match, it's not like I used to. I'm watching the referee, and it in a way it sometimes spoils it, because I'm looking at the technical aspects of the referee, his positioning, his proximity to play, his movement, how he manages players. You know, what frustrates me is that challengers in the first half that should have had a yellow card are yellow carded in the second half.
Yeah, because it's later in
and
the
you
game.
Suddenly
and
go,
that sort of stuff.
that just have a level of consistency And if you're happy to let that one go in the first half, let it go in the second.
Yeah.
Be consistent.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. It does
But
my head in when
what you get with some of them is they let the game flow, and you think, "Oh, this is good. There's no referee at this match," and then all of a sudden they've had a cup of tea at half time. You've had a chat. They come out, and all of a sudden you go flash, 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 yellow cards. And
I think someone mentioned that. Someone mentioned it in one of the live games. There was no yellow cards up until about the 75th minute. And then suddenly the referee realised that having just started a card, and he was just it's like, stop it.
Well, sometimes Anthony Taylor does that. And you think to myself, what's going off? See, you had some, in my era, the average yellow cards per game, I started off at round 4 and improved the management processes and the communication. And that came down to an average about 3 a card.
Yeah.
Last year, I think it was about 4. And what that means is some referees are giving 6. Their average is about 5 and some are 3. And what you've got to do is you're not actually saying you don't want more yellow cards. You're actually saying, look, be proactive, prevent rather than punish. And if you can do that on the fly, don't say to the player, next time you do that, you're going to get a yellow card. Actually say to that player, I want an improvement in your behaviour.
Yeah.
Can you oblige and just move off?
Yeah, I agree with that. What did you think of the Joe Linton one on the goalkeeper? Was that a red or a yellow?
In my opinion, I think Joe Linton endangered the safety of an opponent and was very fortunate not to get a red. Because his actions were a grab. It was high up. It wasn't across the chest, and therefore he endangered the safety. And the law states that in that situation, it's a red card. It's easy for me to say that. Did the referee have the same viewing angle that we got on television? I suggest not. But VAR did.
Yeah. So why don't VAR jumping in on it? Is it because the referee branded the yellow card very quickly and said that was enough punishment? Or should VAR have said, look, I'm sorry, that needs to be upgraded?
In my opinion, if there is a judgment call that a card needs to be upgraded, you have to bring the referee on that. And the referee then, and this is where the whole process is, we know that when the referee goes to the screen, he's going to follow VAR. Well, I want some of the guys to go to the screen and say to the VAR, get lost, mate. I'm sticking with what I'm given. Yeah. And so if that referee had gone to the screen and said, I'm sticking with a yellow, I think we'd buy into that. If we went to the screen, saw it again from a better angle and decided that's red and applied the law, then it's red. So I think we don't have to look at it from which player it is. It's about the action and the outcome. And the action and the outcome, in my opinion, on this one was wrong. But look, it's a subjective decision.
But I think you're right, though. I mean, the more you look at it, he was very high. He was close to his neck rather than his chest. I mean, we see it week in, week out with players trying to stop a counter-attack by picking up what we call a clever yellow card, isn't it? Really?
Correct.
Yeah. But that was...
And I think that it's easy. It was easy for the referee to give a yellow. And I think at the end of the day, the referee has to ensure the safety of players. And we know that players do daft things for certain reasons. He was unfortunate, Joe Linton, because there was no malice in it, and that might have been what the VAR thought. There's no malice. He's just grabbed it, and he's unfortunate that it's high up. But when you actually see the replay, then as the VAR, you've then said you need to have another look.
Yeah,
and the referee in that situation, we've got to encourage referees to stand by the initial decision if they think they're right. Yeah, but they don't, do they? Because what we've got with VAR is lazy refereeing.
Yes.
We'll follow the VAR. And this is why I think with Oliver refereeing, the VAR suddenly applies clear and obvious because they're actually saying it's Michael Oliver and he's an outstanding referee.
Yeah.
And
so he's mainly got the decision right on the pitch, so we don't need to really get involved.
His decision-making accuracy is very high. That's why I rate him as our number one referee. This is a personal view, but it's shared by many. Yeah. He doesn't get into many scrapes, and you saw at the weekend because he's the top referee. He's going to get the big games. He's going to get the difficult games, and you see the problems that he encountered and how he dealt with them. The body language was neutral. He didn't get angry. He just calmed it because they respect him and he respects the players. And they have the confidence that he'll make the right calls. He's human. He will make errors. But interestingly, I think he makes fewer errors than the rest of the referees in the group.
All right. Last one for you because it just popped in. Be interesting to hear Keith's opinion on Shaw's red cards. That was against Southampton last weekend. With the Southampton player I would say free tricks from the headbutt.
Yeah, I mean, why do professionals do this to themselves? Right. For me, the referee, if it had been in quick, could have given 2 yellows.
Yeah,
but I think he failed to see, and what he ought to have had a look at the screen at, is, and you can review and reduce a red card. Yeah. The reality is, first of all, it's football, and players should play with their feet and use the head to head the ball and not the opponent. But what you got is theatrics that don't make good looking for the game. And therefore, I think this is why, I think he was unfortunate to get a red, because I think the actions of his opponent, if you like, manufactured the contact.
Yeah. Well, the ball went forward.
I'm thinking, I'd have given 2 yellows there.
Yeah.
And that would have been the end of the matter. I thought it was a fairly harsh red, but because the red is being issued and it's for the use of the forehead, however you look at it, I don't think there's any chance of getting off.
Yeah, well, he didn't. We've appealed it.
I mean, it's easy to say red. It's red in law, but I don't think that they took into account the actual incident itself.
Theatrics of it.
Yeah. And you suddenly think an experienced referee would have got in quick and gone, yellow, get on with it.
I agree. And to be honest with you, you could really look at Diaz getting a red for his theatrics as well. You could get a yellow for the coming together, and then you can also get a yellow for diving, couldn't he? You could have got a red himself.
Look, this is where I think it wasn't a good piece of refereeing. I think it was punishment for one and forget the other.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that if you're going to use technology, use it wisely. And this is where I think another look by that referee may have had a different outcome at the end of the day and a better one. It's easy to pull a red card.
Of course it is. It's happened before. We've seen. I remember one Man City game. I was at it. It was Trippier. He slid in and he took De Bruyne out, and he got given a straight red. Yeah. But it was one of those technical fouls again to pick up a yellow, and then VAR looked at it, got the referee over, and said, "Look, it's not 2-footed. There's no malice in it. He's tripped him. It's a yellow. You need to downgrade your card," and they did. And then it was 11v11.
Those are areas where you want the level of accuracy and the understanding of the game to kick in. And this is why I think the relationship, this is not about the technology. This is about the relationship between referee and VAR.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you've got the captain of the super tanker, and he can steer the ship, and he can actually bring it out to the outside of the port. But interestingly, they use skillful, experienced people called pilots to put the ship into the dockyard.
Yeah.
Because they do it accurately week in, week out. And that's why I think you can't be VAR 1 week and then 2 weeks later you're VAR again. It's a little bit like golf. It's like any sport. The more you do it, hopefully, the better you become. Golf is probably a poor analogy. The more you play, sometimes.
No, golf. The more you you can get worse as well, can't you? Because you're looking Nick Faldo, twisty swing.
I mean, that's the point. The point is more about getting used to the process, building the confidence, understanding the technology.
Yeah,
I agree. And then how you deal with it. Yeah. So, and I think that's an important part of refereeing.
Yep, I agree. Well, Keith, we're flowing into an hour there, got through all the new rules. That was absolutely amazing. I appreciate your insight and everything we've done. Time to eat something and then get ready to watch the match. Are you watching the Newcastle game tonight?
I might be watching Frickley versus Penistone Church in the Northern Counties East League.
Hey, good luck then. There's no harm in that.
Kick off in 30 minutes.
Brew, you need to get your coat on and get moving. Yeah. I'm hopefully going to be at Newcastle Benfield on Saturday myself. A bit of a Northern non-league team as well. Semi-pro. Yeah. It's always good watching that kind of football, isn't it?
There's no VAR. I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a drinker, but I can be stood with somebody that's got a pint and has a disagreement, and exactly. And you suddenly, and the players talk to you as well. I think this is, in a way, something that we've lost a bit, hasn't it? Definitely. Players going into stadiums wearing cans and not acknowledging spectators and all that sort of business.
I agree. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we can get you back on in the future for more rules, decisions and all that sort of stuff. But enjoy the game tonight and we'll stay in touch. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.